You didn't come here to learn. You came here to remember. And if you think that sounds like spiritual fluff, stay with me because what I am about to show you is going to completely destroy everything you thought you knew about why you feel so lost, why nothing you achieve fills that void, and why deep down you've always known something was missing. Because the truth is you weren't born empty. That's the first lie they sold you. And every system, educational, religious, social, has been built on that lie to keep you searching outside yourself for what was never actually lost. Listen carefully. You didn't stumble into this world as a blank slate waiting to be programmed. You arrived full, carrying memory, carrying knowing, carrying ancient codes etched deep into your soul. But the world doesn't greet you as a soul. It greets you as a project to shape, a name to fill, a blank canvas to paint their vision on. And from your very first breath, the forgetting begins. They tell you what to cry for, what to fear, what to chase. The programming starts early. What's good, what's bad, what makes you lovable, what makes you worthy. You learn quickly that silence is uncomfortable, that stillness is lazy, that your natural curiosity must fit within their curriculum. The soul doesn't speak in any of these languages, so it grows quiet, and then they convince you that quiet means absent. But it was never gone, just buried beneath everything they told you to become. This isn't conspiracy theory bullshit. This is the human condition. Every mystic, every sage throughout history has pointed to this same truth. Birth isn't the beginning, it is the start of forgetting. Awakening isn't about learning something new. It's about unlearning everything false. But here's the part that is going to piss you off. You participated in your own forgetting, we all did. Because to remember means to let die every identity you've built. The persona, the pride, the mask you wear to feel safe. All of it must dissolve, and your ego would rather you keep performing than risk that death. At some point you stopped asking, who am I? And started asking, who do I need to be to survive? That's when the drift began. The drift from essence to performance. You filled your life with goals, achievements, spiritual practices, self-help books. But the deeper you searched, the more lost you felt. Why? Because none of it pointed you inward. It was all external validation for a stage built by someone else's rules. But the soul never forgets. It waits. It leaves breadcrumbs in dreams, in déjà vu, in that ache you feel when everything seems fine but something still feels wrong. That ache isn't confusion. That's memory trying to break through the programming. There comes a moment, quiet, unglamorous, usually when you're alone. When you look in the mirror and don't to recognize the reflection, not because your face changed, but because something deeper stirs. You begin to sense that this version of yourself you've been living isn't really you. The voice in your head, the roles you've played, the beliefs you've defended like your life depended on it, they all start to crack. And when that happens, a strange grief appears. You are not mourning a loss. You are mourning the realization that most of your life was built on borrowed identity. Most people don't know who they are. They know who they were praised for being. They know who they were punished for being. And so they became a performance, a personality adapted to win approval and avoid abandonment. The performance worked. That's the danger. It got you accepted, respected, maybe even successful. But deep down, you knew something felt off, like living your entire life inside a costume you forgot you were wearing. There's a question so simple most people miss it. So powerful most people fear it. Is this really mine? The dreams you chase, the fears that paralyze you, the values you claim to live by, where did they actually come from? Were they born from your soul's authentic desire, or passed down from someone else's trauma? That inner critic destroying your peace, is that your voice or your mother's? Your father's, society's? That burning ambition consuming your life, was it ever yours? Or just a survival instinct disguised as purpose? When you start asking this question, you'll be shocked by how much of your life is borrowed programming. How much of your identity was stitched together from other people's expectations, traumas, and unhealed wounds. The power isn't in finding the right answer. The question itself does the work. It creates space, and that's where the remembering begins. Not by acquiring new knowledge, but by stripping away what was never yours to carry in the first place. There are moments, sometimes fleeting, when everything goes quiet. It can happen staring at a fire, watching the sky, walking in nature. No voice, no thought, no need to prove anything. Just stillness. And in that stillness, something ancient stirs. Not a memory you can put into words, but a vibration. A recognition that comes from somewhere deeper than your mind. You can't explain it, but you know. I've been here before, I've always been here. That's your silent name, not something written on a birth certificate or whispered in a ceremony. It's a frequency, a soul signature. It's who you were before language, before fear, before the layers of personality wrapped around your essence like armor. The only way to hear it again is through silence. Real silence. Not just the absence of noise, but the presence of something else entirely. Your soul's fingerprint, unique, eternal, untouched by time or trauma. You can't force this. You can't think your way to it. You can only create space for it. It comes through surrender, not effort. Through stillness, not seeking. And once you touch it, even once, the false self starts losing its grip because you finally have a reference point for what is real. You don't need to escape the world to wake up. You need to stop letting the world define you. When your soul starts to remember, the noise doesn't disappear, but your relationship to it completely changes. You start hearing the voice beneath the voice. The one that doesn't shout, doesn't panic, doesn't need validation. It's always been there, still steady, ancient. It doesn't tell you what to do. It reminds you of who you are. Suddenly, what used to trigger you feels hollow. The gossip, the race to be right, the pursuit of status, it all looks like bad theater. You don't disappear from life. You show up more fully, but not as a reaction, as a conscious choice. This is what remembrance looks like in real life. Not visions or mystical experiences, just quiet steadiness, subtle power, a knowing that doesn't need explanation. It's walking into rooms without shrinking to fit them, being questioned without needing to defend, watching things fall apart without falling with them. You're not escaping reality. You're entering it on your own terms. The remembering was never about adding more knowledge, more practices, more spiritual concepts. It was always about subtraction, peeling away everything that isn't you until only truth remains. And that truth doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to argue. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply is. You carry it now. You always have. But now you're starting to remember. Dross I remember in the comments if you're ready to stop performing identity and start living as the soul you've always been. The world doesn't need more actors playing spiritual roles. It needs rememberers who carry the frequency of truth. Time to come home to yourself.